All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's new features webinar, where we'll be showing you all of the new and exciting features that we've released this past month. My name is Sarah, and I am a customer experience advocate here at monday.com. I'd also like to introduce my amazing colleagues, Maddie, Gio, and Charlotte, who will be helping to answer your questions throughout today's demo. While we give everyone a moment to settle in, we'd love to know a bit more about you guys. I see people are joining us from all over the world. I'm seeing the chat really blow up. It's amazing. I would also love to know what industries do we have with us today. So as some more people are coming in, feel free to let us know. Oh, okay. Higher education, consulting. Wow, this is moving really fast. Construction, legal, amazing. Cool. NGO, amazing. Cool. That is so exciting. Well, you should be able to see my screen and hear me, but if that's not the case at any point during the presentation, please do let us know by writing in the chat box so we can get it resolved as quickly as possible. Now, today's session will be made up of two parts. First, we'll take a look at our new features in action, then we'll move into a live Q&A to answer your questions. Throughout the demo, please be sure to add your questions in the dedicated Q&A box at the bottom of the screen instead of the general chat. Totally great that we're all chatting in the chat room right now, but if you have any questions, again, please do put that in the Q&A box. Now, we will try to get to as many questions as we can. That said, there are a lot of us today, so if we don't get to your specific question, feel free to check out our support articles and community.monday.com as someone else most likely, let me just mute that. Feel free to check out community.monday.com as someone else most likely already asked your question there and had it answered. If not, you can reach out to us at support@monday.com. Finally, you will be emailed a recording of today's session within 3 business days, but you can also find the recording on our monday.com/webinars page. So I know that's going to be a question that comes up a lot today. This will be recorded. So let's go ahead and take a look at today's agenda. We'll be covering the new combo column, aka the duration column, improvements to board functionality like smoother dragging and dropping and emoji support, Monday workdocs and the most recent improvements, plus a quick demonstration of our super cool apps marketplace and our app of the month, the workflow app. Lastly, everyone's favorite, our Q&A session. Again, can everyone hear me and see my screen? Amazing. Perfect. Cool. Thank you. Perfect. So let's jump over to, whoops, not the Q&A yet. Let's jump over to my monday.com account. To start, I do want to note that each of the new features you'll see here today have a wide variety of applications. So for this session, we've decided to use the example of a work production company, but I know we have many super interesting industries with us, so don't worry if this isn't the same exact use case as yours. As I show these new features in context, you'll be able to see how these cool updates will enhance your own workflows. Now, this is actually our new video production management templates from our template center, and I've tweaked the boards for the purposes of our session. Templates provide a really nice foundation to get started, and they're fully customizable. You can find this specific one by going to your template center. So let's click on Add, choose from Templates, and this one is in content production, video production management. Of course, we have lots of other boards here available for different use cases, which is a really great way to get started with the most popular workflows. I'm going to focus specifically within this video production management template on this production process board where you can plan, track, and manage a single project for a client through pre-production, production, and post-production. Again, all of the features we'll be showing today can be used with any workflow, but to walk you briefly through my board, each item essentially represents a task within a single project. A crucial aspect of this workflow is that each task must be completed before the subsequent one can get started, and that each task generally takes the same amount of days for each project. Now, up until recently, to reflect the duration of each task, we used to have to manually input all of the timeline dates. It wasn't possible to auto-populate empty timeline date fields for multiple items, but manually inputting dates like this for a whole board can take quite some time. Now, to make this even easier and more user-friendly, we're happy to introduce the new combo column, aka the duration column. I'm going to scroll over here to the right, click on Add Column, More Columns. This will bring us to our column center, and I'm going to click on Combos under Categories. Now, this is available on all plans at the moment, so you should see this on your board as well, timeline plus numeric. With this new feature, you can take your scheduling one step further and easily populate dates within the timeline column based off the number of days in the duration column. Now, in this board, which is basically a project management use case, we're going to populate these deadlines in just a few clicks. Let's say taking creative notes, writing a script, casting, etc. takes about the same number of days each time for each video, or in other use cases, each project. I'm going to plug in some random numbers here. And you can see the timeline populate automatically. Now, if you're in HR, you can also use this feature to auto-populate paid time off or vacation days. And what's really cool is that this supports workdays. So if your account is set to hide weekends in your admin section, and I'll just quickly show that. So if you want to hide weekends, this feature will essentially skip right over those, Fridays and Saturdays if you're based in Tel Aviv, or Saturdays and Sundays elsewhere, and calculate that accordingly. Now, on the flip side, you can even do the reverse and populate dates first. So let's go ahead and let's pick a random date. And you can see that the duration also auto-populated. This is useful if you just want to see how many days a task might take. Of course, you can just hover over the timeline and that'll show as well, but it's easy to just see this at a glance, which used to require a formula column. Now, to take a step back, you're probably wondering, okay, why do all the dates start with the same date? Great question. The default timeline date will start with today's date, which is ideal if the tasks are independent from each other. However, as I mentioned earlier, this workflow requires the previous task to be completed before the next one can get started. So we don't actually want the start date for each item to be today, right? Well, this combo column can be even further combined with the dependency column, which is offered on the Pro plan. So let's go ahead and add the dependency. Again, in our column center, I'm going to search for dependency. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the dependency column, this column essentially creates relationships between items on your board so that changes made to one item's status column or date or timeline column will adjust another item's status or date. Now, in this case, we are going to link this to our new timeline column, not the old one. And when we do this, this automatically actually creates an automation. Let's click on our automation center. And this automation will essentially adjust the dates in the timeline to reflect the changes made in its dependent item. So to just explain that a little further or show you in action, I'm going to set up just a few dependencies for the sake of this example, but of course it would be ideal to set it up for the entire board. Now in this case, again, when you're writing the script, the screenwriters can't get started on the script before the brainstorming session happens, right? So let's go ahead and make our writing script item dependent on creative notes. Casting can't happen before the script is written. And of course, the consent forms need to be sent to whoever is casted. Now when I enter the duration, just going to clear this for now, just start over. Okay, again, the same date appears, but now when I input that 5, this date will ideally, might be a little bit of a delay there, but the date would ideally adjust to reflect the change based on the end date of that previous task. Now, it looks like there's something a little wonky going on there, so let me try that again. Okay, perfect. There we go. Let's add in some other dates. And again, this should adjust based off of the end date of the previous task. Perfect. Okay, perfect. So as you can see, these timeline dates adjust automatically. Now we have a beautiful kind of waterfall situation happening where now these dates are auto-populated, and now when I adjust one, perhaps everything gets pushed out a little bit. The rest should also fall into place. Perfect. And you can see these dates updating automatically. How cool is that? Cool. So now let's take a look at some smaller but no less mighty updates. Our developers have made dragging and dropping columns, items, and groups faster and slicker. So now that I've built this way cooler functionality with the combo columns, I actually want to get rid of this old timeline. And I want to drag everything over so that it just looks a little easier to see this information at a glance. Of course, budgeting is important, but maybe not at the forefront of everyone's thoughts. Cool. So notice how much smoother the UI is. Now dragging, dropping, items, you can see where it's going to fall into place, which is really great. Same thing with columns, and same thing with groups. And now that just helps keep your board organized easier than ever. Perfect. So next up, now it's possible to use emojis in group titles, column names, status labels, and text columns. Just as an example, let's put some fun emojis. I want to put a calendar in the timeline. Let's put a little writing symbol for, obviously, when the writing happens. A little camera for shooting. And for post-production, where the magic happens, a top hat. Not only does this make your boards more user-friendly and easier to understand at a glance, especially if you're more of a visual learner like I am, but these details make your team's everyday work more fun and more joyful. Speaking of joyful, I'm happy to announce workdocs, our newest building block in the monday.com workOS, are officially out of beta testing. If you click on Add, New Doc, you'll see that the beta label, which was there before, is now gone, and we've added even more amazing features to it. Now, over 200,000 users have already tried Monday workdocs, and that number is obviously rapidly growing. But in case you haven't checked it out yet, I'm happy to quickly recap what they are. Workdocs are our first truly collaborative document feature and the next step in making monday.com an all-encompassing work OS platform for you. While this might look like just another document where you can add texts and images, it's so much more. Kind of like a smart whiteboard, you can add different elements by clicking on this add button here in the upper left or clicking on the add content button here. Now, this is great for, again, text or images, bulleted lists, checklists, but you can also embed entire boards, which is really cool. Let's try our video production process. And what's really cool is you can also add relevant widgets, right? So you can add a battery widget, chart widget, numbers, calendar, etc. This is really great if you're, using this document to summarize deliverables for a client, and you want to show budgets, other kinds of metrics, show the status of, the project. This is super handy. Now, specifically for my workflow, I've created a work doc for my video production plan, which I'm going to switch over to now, where I can keep track of the schedule, the requirements of the project, and I can collaborate on a script, and I've embedded my board. Now to go back up, this is the timeline widget. This is just super useful to see all of that at a glance. So let's go ahead and configure that while we're here. Perfect. And let's say I want to group by group. Perfect. So now you can see, all the dates that kind of fell into place earlier. And as we would populate the, groups, again, using that duration column, they would also appear here. Super handy. Now, scrolling down with the video production process board that I've embedded here, this is really useful because I can edit from the work doc itself. So let's say I'm reviewing this production plan, during a meeting, and I realize actually this, status needs to be updated, and perhaps this was already completed. I can go ahead and make that change from the work doc itself. No need to exit out of this page or switch to a different tab. I can go ahead and just update that right here, right now. Now, for my video production company, I could also use workdocs for drafting those, consent forms or, client contracts. I can record meeting notes in here. I can create internal guides for my writers and videographers, so much more. Now, one of the best features of the workdocs is the ability to co-edit in real time. This means that your team can instantly, share comments in our newly added updates section. You can drag and drop text, you can collaborate freely without disrupting each other's experience. Now, in last month's New Features webinar, we showed you how to create template workdocs. If I want to make this a template that I want to use every time for every video production, I can go ahead and click on this three-dot menu in the upper right, save as template. Perfect. And now I can also add gifs, which is really fun. And again, just makes your workdoc more visually appealing. And to do so, I'm going to click on add, scroll down to gif. Let's say I want to say action. Perfect. And lastly, last month, we also showed you how to add different layouts. And again, you click on add layout and you can, I've added a layout here to kind of designate these different scripts, and I can drag and adjust the size of the column as well. I imagine for the 1 minute script, we'll need a kind of larger space. Now this month, we've added the functionality of present mode, code blocks, and even more cool template workdocs for your specific use cases. Let's start with present mode, which you can activate by clicking on this projector screen icon in the upper right corner. And now, when pitching an idea to your team or your client, you can display your workdoc in a super clean and professional view. You can even click on this sun icon in the upper right to switch the viewing settings to light mode, from light mode to dark mode or night mode. And you can see everything adjusts, and this is so much easier on the eyes in a meeting room. Just to warn you, I'm going to switch back to light mode, so just want to prepare you guys for that. Additionally, we've added code blocks to workdocs, which was only previously supported in the updates section. So let's scroll down here, and again, we're going to click on that add button, which you can also find here. We're going to click on code. And with code blocks, you can write or copy and paste in a block of its own, which automatically recognizes the language of the code, whether it's HTML, CSS, Java, Python, etc. Of course, this is crucial functionality for developers. Just so much easier on the eyes, easier to tell, what kind of code it is. But this is also useful for designers who might use CSS, or for writers or social media coordinators when you want to quickly drop embed codes for, let's say, YouTube videos when planning a blog post. Notice how it populates those colors automatically, and you can scroll over to the right for this code instead of this taking up a huge space on your workdoc. This is also handy if you have a ton of formula columns in your monday.com account, perhaps if you're using a lot of calculations that you'd like to organize and keep track of in a single workdoc. So not only does the code block make code easier to read, but it also keeps your workdoc and therefore workflow more organized and leaves less room for user error. Finally, let's explore template docs. This was a highly requested feature from users like yourself, so we're really excited to have gotten to roll this out. Again, I'm going to click on Add and go to our Template Center. And here under Category, you'll see that there are now docs. We have several super cool ones here, such as meeting summary docs and weekly checklists, project plans. I really like this product launch plan because it has a bunch of goals and embedded boards. For this one, I actually want to, let's go back. For this one, I actually want to check out our Brainstorming Monday workdoc. This doc, once it loads, is pre-formatted to include inspiration and action items, and I really like that. I think it's perfect to include in my video production process template board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use select all, copy, head back to my video production process board, and I'm going to add a new template from the files column. And I'm going to just paste that brainstorming formatting here. Perfect. And let's actually even rename this brainstorming video. And of course, you can tweak this for your use case as necessary. Now, whenever I create a new board from this template board, remember we made this we made that that workdoc a template as well. Whenever I duplicate this, that workdoc will already be added, and it will be a brand new workdoc that I can get started in immediately. This makes recurring workflows like this even more seamless and automated. Now, I do want to note, at this time, it isn't possible to create workdoc templates from within the files column itself, which is why I'm copying and pasting. But stay tuned for more exciting updates to workdocs to come in the future, as we are constantly making new feature updates, as you know. Awesome. So now that we've explored our newest feature updates to monday.com, let's finish up with our app of the month. If you haven't checked it out yet, monday.com has its own apps marketplace. You can find this via the three-dot menu in the upper right corner of the board itself and click on Apps Marketplace there. Or you can click on your profile in the lower left corner and pull up the account menu and click on Apps Marketplace. This is where you can power up your specific workflows with third-party apps that extend the functionality of the platform even further. So if you're ever wondering, if you ever hit a roadblock with a platform that you'd really like to fit into your workflow, feel free to check out the Apps Marketplace. We're constantly adding more and more apps here, so we really encourage you to check it out regularly. Now, thanks to feedback from our users, we've actually made it much clearer how to contact the developer and how to find the pricing information for each app. Now, each month, we like to highlight an app that we think our users will find useful in their workflows. Now, of course, it's, the whole board can be a really handy workflow, but let's say you want to have a more structured workflow process with more required columns, custom permissions, etc. This is where the workflow app comes in really, really handy. So what this is perfect for users who only want certain people to complete a specific step and therefore change a status column, or if certain tasks are required and need to be approved by management before it can be approved and moved to the next stage. So let's go back to our specific workflow. I'm going to switch over to a high-level overview of all the videos in production. I've created this separate board where each item is a project rather than a whole board. And again, this will go through the same workflow I mentioned in the low-level board, so brainstorming, script, etc. And in my workflow app, I've set this up so that, same way, each step, each stage relies on the previous task being completed first. And for a production process like this, we do actually want to approve each step and for, certain columns to be filled in before moving on. That way, nothing falls through the cracks. In my workflow app, I've set this up so that anyone can get a new project going. But in the brainstorming stage, even though all users can, make that switch from not start to brainstorming to script, I do want to require these columns to be filled first. I want that timeline / duration to be estimated so that, people can get an idea of, when this video production is going to happen. I want an estimated budget before I can even, approve script writing. Similarly, when I scroll down to consent forms, only the legal team, which is currently a group in my account, only the legal team can approve consent forms before the project is moved to the production stage, right? We need consent forms to be filled before people can even start thinking about equipment. And the legal team must also attach those consent forms to the files column. We can't proceed without those consent forms. Now, what does this mean for the team members once I've set this up? When I go back to my main table, you can see that I've added a column permission, and that's on Pro plans, but I've added a column permission so that they can't go in and change the stage status column to whatever they wish, whenever they wish. Instead, they have to click into the item view and click into the workflow app that I've added. And as you can see, only designated team members can change a specific status in this process. Everything else is grayed out. So we can't skip any steps. We can't go straight to equipment before we go through all these other processes first. So essentially, by using the workflow app, you will have full control over your team's processes to ensure accuracy and efficiency all things we love at monday.com. I do want to end this by noting that only account admins can install marketplace apps to the account. And again, that these apps are created by third-party developers. So if you have any specific questions about the workflow app, or it's not particularly, being configured the way you'd like it, the Spotnik team would be more than happy to assist. And again, you can find these developers' contacts info in the apps marketplace. Let's go back to our apps marketplace, search for a workflow since I'm talking about them, and you can click on contact developer and that will automatically bring up their email. Okay, so I talked a lot. This completes the new features part of our session, and we'll be moving into the Q&A shortly. I'm going to just grab a quick sip of water and then jump right in. But if you haven't had a chance, please be sure to add your questions to the Q&A box. Okay, awesome. Now I'm going to switch over to the Q&A box. I know my colleagues have been answering some of these questions already, and I do also see that these questions are coming in a mile a minute. So no worries if we don't get to your questions today. Again, you can reach out to support@monday.com, and we'd love to assist, particularly if it's a very detailed question. Might be nice for you to just get more personalized hands-on support. Feel free to send us screenshots and screen recordings, etc. Okay, so one question trend that my colleagues noted is that a lot of you guys are asking if you can use hours versus days in the new duration column. That's a great question. So let me go back to my video production process board. And at this time, the duration column can only calculate days, but that is great feedback. That is something that, if you've noticed even in the automations that right now it's more focused on days rather than hours. Typically, in order to get that granular with information, you'll need to use, hours columns, but even then it can be, a little tricky to manage. You might find an app for that in the apps marketplace, but in the meantime, we'll be sure to pass that feedback. I think that's a great idea to have this, calculate hours instead. So yeah, we'd love to pass that on. Okay, another question that I keep seeing is recording. Yes, this will be recorded, don't worry, or this is being recorded. I should clarify. And the recording will be processed either emailed to you because you guys are here and we have your emails within 3 days, or in 3 days it will be uploaded to our monday.com/webinar/on-demand page. So rest assured, this is going to be recorded. Okay. Now, while we're on the subject of the duration, I see some other really great questions. Does duration work on sub-items? Great question. Let's actually go ahead and test this out in real time. Perfect. So it looks like it does. In general, the same columns are supported at the sub-item level. So, if you see that it appears there, it will. I do want to note though that there isn't a way for the duration/timeline or any of those to update, a parent item based off of a sub-item change. In other words, you can't set up dependencies between a parent item and a sub-item. Those duration timelines dependencies need to happen at the sub item within the sub item level, and within the parent item level, it can't be combined. Next question, does duration work backwards? As far as I know, yes. This was a little slow before. Whoops, actually. So I think what you're asking is if the dependencies work backwards, can the duration work backwards? Let's see. So consent forms to rely on casting. Oops. So it looks like I might need to test that out a bit more, but I'll definitely check that out. And again, feel free to write back to us. I want to say yes. Right now, my board is being slightly uncooperative, but that should be supported. Yeah. Another great question, how did you get emojis? In this case, so depends on the computer that you're using actually, or operating system. In my case, my Mac comes with emojis. I know some PCs also come with emojis as like part of the keyboard shortcut. But if you struggle to find emojis in your like account itself, you can actually feel free to just go over to any of the items, and we have emoji support in the updates section. So you can actually just, click on whatever. I didn't mean to pick a kissy face, but we're just gonna roll with it. And you can actually, here, this is confusing me, so I'm just gonna delete that. And you can actually just paste that in right there. So if you don't, don't worry if you don't have emojis on your computer or OS. You can easily just go into the update section, click on emoji, select one, and copy and paste it wherever you see fit. So hopefully that will make your boards a little bit more fun and exciting. Awesome. So let me go on to the next question. Okay, looks like someone asked, is there a way to remove weekends from auto populated deadlines? Yes, so again, if you have your weekends hidden, or that will automatically just jump over those dates. And I'd love to show that again, because I think I kind of went over it really fast. But if you go to your admin menu, click on general account, you can choose to hide weekends. So let's go ahead and just show this in real time. And let's go ahead and set this up. Not sure what happened there. Okay, so now you can see that, let's actually start this over from scratch, just because it's a little easier that way. Okay, cool. So as you can see, it's skipped over the 28th and 29th. I just realized my weekends are set to Fridays and Saturdays. But if you, as you can see, this is going to skip over, like typically it would end on the 31st, but now it's skipping over those dates and extending by 5 business days. Okay, let's go through some more questions. I answered all the emoji questions, hopefully, so you can start plugging them in now. Okay, someone asked, are these features available with any plan? So at the moment, the duration timeline column is available on all plans. I do want to note that the dependency is only available on the Pro plan. Similarly, with the other feature that I mentioned, workdocs are also available on all plans. Certain widgets, of course, chart is only offered in Pro and up. But if you just go over to my high level board, the column permissions is not on all plans, but the workflow app, any apps in the app marketplace pretty much are available on all plans. Just looking for more questions. Okay, someone has a really great question about public APIs. Do you have any timelines on exposing public APIs to do away with embedding iframes in external sites, insecure and establishing secure connections via API key? Please do. That's a great question, and we do, want to reassure you about our security policies. So please do write into us. Our support at monday.com email address so that we can answer you directly and ensure that we get that answer for you. Let's see. Great question. Someone asked, when will workdocs be editable on the Monday app? It's read only at this time. You're right. Workdocs are not available for editing on mobile apps at this time, but our team are definitely looking into it. That is on our roadmap. So stay tuned for exciting updates. Okay, if you share the doc with someone not in Monday, how do they see the info? Great question. So to go back to my work doc, they do need you. There is no way to share this, publicly. You can only share it with someone who is invited to your work doc itself. They have to be invited to your monday.com account, and you can also select permissions to make this work doc a well, this isn't possible because it's a template, but if it wasn't a template, you can change the doc type to a private doc. Now, for people who are external to your monday.com account, that present mode is really just for like when you're in the same room with them and you want to present this to them, or if you want to, project this onto a screen in the background in your office. So that's what the present mode feature is specifically for. That being said, we did add this print functionality, which you can also export by saving as a PDF. So if you ever want to send your work doc to a client perhaps, or a client contract, you can save that to your computer as a PDF just by clicking on that print icon. Moving on. Any plans to introduce a landscape option on workdocs? That's a really great question. I'm going to actually write that down because I think it's a really good piece of feedback. And I'm definitely going to pass that along to our workdocs team. That's a really great great feature request. In docs, can you highlight text and provide comments? Great question. So at this time, no, but that is a super highly requested feature. I think you're thinking of like Google Docs where you can do that. At this time, that's not supported, but you can add the update within the updates section, the doc update section itself. And yeah, but in the meantime, that is definitely a highly requested feature, and I'll pass that on as well. Ooh, that's a great question. Jennifer asked, will creating a template in a work doc also pull in the same boards? So I think you're asking if making this a template, will this always pull the same, template board that I created before? Yes. So you do need to go in and let's say that I duplicate this. Let's say I duplicate this, but I actually want to pull in a different board and not that template board. I'll need to go into settings. And what's really cool is I can really easily just, select for example, my high level board that I showed earlier, just go in and, change the board out. That's a great question. Okay. Does the code work with GitHub? That's a great question. I think you're asking if it works with Git language. At this time, these are the languages that you see here that are available, but you can certainly, paste that from GitHub into the code block or vice versa. If that, I'm not sure if that answered your question. If that didn't, feel free to write into us at support. Okay, still just going through these questions. Can template docs also be added automatically into a files column upon item creation? If I'm understanding your question correctly, I'm thinking you're saying if I were to, if you create a new item, can that file column, can something automatically be created here? At this time, no. And there isn't a way to do that via automation, but I can see why that would be useful. I would suggest just using that kind of workaround that I showed you guys earlier for that purpose. Okay, continuing to scroll down through lots of questions. Amazing. Okay, great question that I see as well. How do we make the link between a new duration column and an existing timeline column? At this time, you do need to create a new timeline column. And as in you have to select the combos, and this will just add that new timeline column. There isn't a way to link that, after the fact. This does need to be set up kind of at the same time. So if you do have an existing timeline column, you will need to just kind of copy that over into, or not copy, but you will need to create that new combo column and then just kind of plug in those dates. Okay, continuing to just scroll through these questions. Okay, someone asked about version history. That is actually on our workdocs roadmap. I think that's a really highly requested feature to be able to see, who made the changes to what and how can we revert back to a different version. That's also on our roadmap. So stay tuned. Tiffany, that's a great question. She asked, can the workflow status for the workflow app be changed in the column, or do you have to click into the item? So at this time, you can certainly remove that column permission, especially if you are on the, if you're on the standard plan and column permissions is not part of your plan. Yeah, you can, the person can, you can remove that and they can change it this way. That being said, that's not super ideal, because that does allow, them to essentially bypass the workflow configuration and everything you've set up. So you can certainly do that and just kind of have like a do not edit. And, let me just put that and just kind of, tell everyone not to make those changes in the status column itself, and to just make the change in the workflow app. Okay, continuing to read through. Looks like some of these are repeat questions, so I'm just skipping some of the repeat ones. Oh, someone asked what was that? What did I mention about the beta update? That just means that that the new doc feature is now open to everybody, and that it's out of beta testing. So that doesn't necessarily mean though that there aren't active improvements being made to workdocs. That is, continuously being worked on. So yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean that these like there aren't going to be more and more updates. There will be. There's a whole roadmap for workdocs, so don't worry. But that just means that yeah, the beta where it said beta is now gone, and new docs are just another new amazing feature of monday.com. That's a great question, Ken. Can you bring an already created work doc into the files column of the board? At this time, no, which is why I did that kind of slightly, strange workaround where I copied and pasted into a new work doc. There isn't a way to attach an existing work doc here. Again, that is a highly requested feature on our roadmap, but at this time, you'll have to either copy and paste, or you can export that as a PDF, like I showed earlier, of just clicking on this print icon, um, save as PDF, and attaching that as a PDF to the existing item. Just continuing to read through. Is there a way to have a table of contents in a doc? That's also something that is coming. I think you mean like kind of like the header links. Yeah, that is coming on our roadmap as well. Ryan had also had a great question. If not holidays, and just gonna go back. If not holidays, can you create a way to exclude custom dates the user enters? I think you mean in the timeline. There isn't a way to exclude custom dates. Unfortunately, at this time, they do kind of follow the like weekend or not weekend rule. Um, but I can see why that would be useful. I think in that case, you would probably just have to manually make those changes. Okay, Anonymous asked, how do we hire a monday.com expert to set up boards based specifically on what we use/need, um, versus stumbling through the unknown? Our customer support team would absolutely love to assist you, so feel free to, write into us at support@monday.com. While we can't set up the boards for you, we can definitely walk you through any, assistance you need, show you the features that you want to learn about. That being said, we do have an amazing partners program, which you can find on our website. Actually, I'm just going to go to monday.com. And when you scroll down, you can find our partner section, find a partner. And this is in the, again, in monday.com, super easy. You can find a partner within your area. You can also reach out to us, and we'd love to help match you up with one as well, and send you a form for signing up for a partner. And these are really great as well because they have very specific knowledge, and they can help build out your account for you. So yeah, definitely recommend reaching out to us, and we can see what we can do. And if anything, we can point you to our amazing partners. Okay. A lot of people I see are asking about creating tasks automatically. Laura, I see, is there a way to tag a team member's Gmail in a Google Doc? I think maybe you mean workdoc, and automatically create a Monday task. So you can create Monday tasks automatically from the workdoc. Actually, let me go over here. And to create a task, you can, let's say I want to tag Miguel and say like, can you do this? And then you can create a new item by new action item by creating a bulleted list and turn into, oops, where is that feature? Sorry, my monday.com account is not quite cooperating with me. Oh, there it is. Yes, you can create a task by highlighting the text, and then this menu will pop up. It'll say create items, and you can select the board in which you would like to create that item, specifically from the video production, specifically from the workdoc. So, well, it's just as a test. We'll do that. There it is. And we'll put it in pre-production. Now, when I go over to that board, you'll see that the test item appeared, that task that I created from the workdoc itself. So that will also appear. There isn't a way to assign that to the person on the board itself. There's no way to assign the owner column, but they'll get tagged in that in the workdoc itself, so that they'll be, they'll get that notification that they were tagged in something. Okay. Just looking through. Can duration use partial days like 0.5? That's a great question. I don't believe so. I don't think that it knows how to do that, but why don't we check? Looks like it did something kind of funky there, where it kind of decreased a day. I think that's because there's actually a dependency there, but yeah, I think at this point the half days might not necessarily work the way you want them to, so I would just stick to regular kind of whole numbers there. And that is because, and just to clarify, with like, even if it was like 1.5 days, right? It would not, it wouldn't know how to calculate the time exactly, because I mentioned earlier that the hours aren't supported in duration. So it would just simply, go with the whole day, whole numbers. Just continuing to look through. Okay, looks like we answered the one about sub items. Let's see. Trying to read this very fast. Okay. Okay, Lucy asked a great question. If you add the dependency after the date duration, how do you get the automation to work? The automation will still work even if you add, as you saw earlier, I added this dependency column after the duration and timeline column were added. So the automation will still work. You just need to kind of plug in those dates, and even if it's just doing it again. So if I want to trigger the automation, you can just put that in again and it'll update. Okay, looks like we are almost out of time, so I'm going to just grab one last question. Okay, how can you view which user added things to the work doc when using a shared work doc? That's a great question. You should be able to see their icons if they're working in the work doc, along with you. Otherwise, there isn't kind of like a version history like I mentioned earlier. So, but that is something again on our roadmap. So yeah, stay tuned for new features. We're always rolling them out. So we'll see you guys next month. Um, for our February new features. So again, thank you so much, everyone. This was amazing. I know we had a lot of questions. So again, feel free to reach out to us, support at monday.com, and we'd love to help you out. Awesome, cool. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.